it's pretty upsetting when you think about it. And I think people have heard, oh, life expectancy dropped because of the pandemic. But I think the thing that people don't think about is that life expectancy in the US is already so much lower than in other similarly well-off countries.
Mm-hmm.
So life expectancy in the US is 75 on average.
What?
Yeah.
Hang on. 75.
It fluctuates a little bit. It's fluctuated a little bit, but it's because of everything going on. But yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is a while ago now, but I remember when okay, so I could be getting this wrong as well, but in Australia, it was like the average was 82.
Yeah, in the UK.
Oh, I've frozen.
In the UK, it's in what? It's 82. It's a big difference. Like, we're not talking about like a matter of months or even a couple years. Like, this is a big difference. And it varies too when you, like, that's the average, right? It varies when you think about men versus women, different ethnicities, different, obviously, accessibility, different kind of parts of the country. But for men in the US, do you know what life expectancy is? 73. 73. It's crazy. It's absolutely absurd. For women, it's higher. So,
yeah,
which is interesting because the US actually has pretty high maternal mortality rates.
Really?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Much, much higher than other countries of a similar socioeconomic status. Mm-hmm. We are at the bottom of the list. I don't want to say a number because I don't know I'll say a number. I think it's somewhere around like 18th in ranking in terms of maternal survival rates.
Wow.
So essentially, if you go in to have a child,
yeah,
in the US, you have compared to other countries, you have a pretty high risk of dying.
I mean, yeah, okay, wow.
So, I mean, if you think about, but why? And when you think about why it is, why do we have, I mean, it's a few, there's like so many things. It's not only is it a shorter lifespan than in other countries, but you have such a long time of illness before your ultimate demise. So not, if you're an average man in the US and you're living to 73, you're living to 73, those last 10 years are likely to be pretty sick. And that's part of what's contributing to our short lifespan is our focus on sick care versus our focus on health care.
Yeah.
We're really good at emergency situations. We're really good at acute situations, but we're not good at, I don't know, just like living healthfully and helping our people live healthfully. Both in terms of like behaviors, like living in we make it so much of a personal responsibility. You need to be healthy. And yeah, absolutely. You have to make the decision that you want to be, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But also, we don't provide very good accessibility. I mean, healthcare costs in the US are extreme. There's tons of, food deserts, or what we're now calling food apartheids. And we don't have good education on health, how to really take care of yourself. I didn't learn about this stuff until I decided to study it. Like, where are you going to learn it? You don't learn it in school. So we have this whole model, and then we have something like a pandemic. The pandemic dropped our life expectancy in the US 2 years in a row. So we have then something like a pandemic, and we're hit really hard with it because our population is sick. And obviously, if you're sick, your immune system you're not going to be as able to combat whatever it is that your body's kind of assaulted with, in this case, a virus.
Right. The reason the death toll was so high is because so many people had comorbidities. If people didn't have comorbidities, it would have been nothing. It would have been like having a cold. Right? So, but the drop in life expectancy, the fact that that's ongoing and that this is as low as it is, has got nothing to do with the pandemic. It's got
right. We've been having this issue for a long time.
And to your point, like, we don't learn. I didn't, and I studied in the UK and Australia. Didn't learn about health. Didn't learn in school, like as a child, how to do staying well. I mean, you do PE, right, which is physical ed class, right? So you do sports,
which they're getting rid of now here. Are they getting rid of it there?
No, we live and breathe sport in Australia.
Yeah. We're getting rid of PE classes in the US.
Because that's going to help fat kids.
It's going to help. It's not going to help anyone. It's not going to help anyone.
I'm being sarcastic. Like, I mean, if you've got an obesity crisis and you're not teaching about how to make good food choices, and then you take away the chance to do sport, I mean, what?
It's not even just sports. It's movement. I've worked with patients who are teens who are, in high school, and they sit in their desk literally from 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. and they don't have really a free period to even go outside and get movement and sunlight. No lunch. They have to. I'm sure it's not like this across the board, but I've absolutely worked with teens where lunch they have to eat seated at their desk in their classroom.
Like if they're on detention, you mean?
No, every single day.
What?
It doesn't make any. Yeah. Our priorities are not exactly in line with a healthy country. I know.
Like lunchtime, like we had an hour and 15 minutes, I think, for lunch at school, right? And so you take 15 minutes at the start to eat, right? And then you've got an hour and you go do all the things, whatever that is, depending on what age bracket you are and what school play equipment and spaces and sports fields and things, right? But that's...
I know. And then you look at, then you look at this difference between men versus women, where men are living, 6 years, 5 years, something like that, shorter than women. It's like, well, why is that? Well, you have higher rates of alcohol, smoking, things like that. But also, one of the big factors is less community. You have less social support. And this is a really big deal if a woman, let's say you have a married couple, a man and a woman, and the woman dies before the man, they have a much harder time bouncing back psychologically and from a health perspective than if the man goes first, because the woman has more support. And then you think about, it made me think of that in terms of school, because you're taking away so much of that opportunity to build community. It's not just about moving, it's about socializing and building your tribe. There's just so many things we've gotten wrong.
Yeah, really.
It's overwhelming.
These are things you kind of take for granted as well, like you have your standard school syllabus and don't learn about money and health and relationships, probably the three most important things that you would want to learn in life. You don't learn about them. Then you leave school and you go and do further study if you're going to, or you start doing some work experience, apprentice, whatever thing, and then go do your chunk of time working in your career, right? And then you retire, and that for most people is a hard stop. Because I was like, right, before I was useful and productive and had meaning in my life and significance in a social group and a sense of self-autonomy and all the rest of the stuff that comes from that. And then bang, and now you don't see your friends and you don't have an income and you don't do like productive things. You don't have a purpose. Yes, sure, you've probably got a DIY list at home, really long, but maybe you do that in the first year, but you're on your own feeling bored about that. And then, probably by that stage, on average, right, there are some aches and pains and some health issues and you're probably on some meds and stuff like that. And then it's all over. It's like, what? Like,
I feel like I just saw so many people's lives flash before my eyes.
Because what you can have, right, is you can break whatever rule you want in that thing. I'm not talking about going and breaking laws, right? But I'm talking about in that set of, I don't know, pre-accepted, assumed normals, you can say, no, what? Do you know what I do want to learn about? I teach my kids about money and relationships and health. I do want to have a career that is rewarding for me and not stuck. And I get to choose my retirement date, and whether retirement is as a hard stop and then I play golf for eternity, or whether or not I go and do some part-time things and learn some other stuff, go to university at the third age, and you know, go hiking and jump out of airplanes and ski when you're 80, because that's what I'm planning to do, right? So like it's there for the taking, but we don't stop and think, I don't think, often enough to say, is this the life I want? Sure. Is this the life I want? And is this the lifespan I want? And is this the health span I want? No, it's not. Okay, it's not what I have to have. I can choose something else.
Yeah, well, most people aren't thinking about what you just said until it's closer. So most people aren't thinking about, what do I want to do post-retirement? What kind of life do I want to live, until they get to that point, right? And at that point, if you want to go golfing every day, there's a really good chance that you won't be able to, because you won't have the fitness. And I don't say that like, I mean, I know that sounds kind of dark, but the point is you could, but we have to start sooner. We have to start much earlier. If you want a high amount of fitness in your 60s, 70s, 80s, you better be starting in your 30s, 40s, 50s, right? Yeah. I mean, the sooner the better, because we know what's going to happen as you age. We know that decline is going to happen. We know your fitness is going to decrease. So you have to have a pretty high level if you're younger to get there when you're older. But most people are, you know, already have at least one, if not multiple, chronic diseases at that point. Diabetes, heart disease, cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, whatever it is, let alone have just the fitness to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So I think if we focused on, as a country, if we focused on not just, we talk a lot about the difference between health span and lifespan, but realistically, they really do go together. We have really just focused on lifespan, which is kind of the acute, saving infections, etc., which is great. But if we shifted gears in that approach, great, we've got that down pat. If we focused on extending the health span, we would inevitably also extend the lifespan as well.
Of course.
Because when you take out, if you look at the lifespan extension that's been due to the advances that we've made in medicine, if you take that out, we haven't really made any advances in those other areas related to these lifestyle chronic diseases. It's really only been in those kind of acute settings. I mean, we have made some, but it's always on the back of it. It's always, oh, you've got it, now we're going to like help extend your life a little bit.
Right.
We're not extending your health.
We've gotten better at doing heart surgery for when you've got heart problems, but we haven't got better at stopping you getting a heart problem.
When we know that heart disease is the most preventable of the chronic diseases and the highest killer. So they really go hand in hand. And then, you know, going back to what we were saying earlier, if we then did that, then when you get sick with these acute, whatever it is, virus, infection, even something, you know, like some kind of a physical trauma, you're going to be better able to heal from that. You're going to be better able to recover and get back to living your life. So it's all kind of tied up into one. But even if we look at, you know, stats elsewhere, in the UK, I think average life expectancy is like 82. Even that, like, obviously that's much better than the US, but even that, like, but we know that the potential is even greater.
Right. I mean, yeah. So it used to be when, well, it's still, okay, well, here's the thing. When you turn 100 and you live in the Commonwealth, right, Her Majesty the Queen would write you a letter, a birthday card, congratulating you on reaching your century. And so you would literally get the card from Her Majesty the Queen, and of course, you know, when she started doing this, when she first ascended to the throne in the 1950s, hardly anyone was getting a birthday card, right? Because there wasn't many people that were hitting 100. And then as her reign has gone on and on and on, right, she had to farm out some of the responsibility of writing these cards. Like, to write the card, she just then sign it at the bottom, because there were so many people reaching 100 that she couldn't keep up with demand, right? So we know just from that, you know, gorgeous anecdotal thing, that life expectancy in the Commonwealth, at any rate, right, is increasing, where your top end is stretching out. Now, these people may be, you know, deliberately trying to get to 100 just so they get their birthday card, right? And then they say, okay, job done, now I can, you know, leave. But I don't really think that's the case, right? So they're not just living to 100, they're living to 100 and something.
Yeah.
You know, so that's real. It's increased. Like, I think for the last 4 years in a row, I don't know before that, but the last 4 years in a row here in the UK, life expectancy is increasing. It's getting, despite COVID. It's, those 4 years include COVID, and it's going up. Admittedly, a little bit, not like whole percentage points, but fractions. But you know, that in the space of 4 years, you probably gained a year from 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what we're doing differently here than you. Well, maybe the NHS, because that's going to be a big deal.
Maybe what?
The NHS, the National Health Service.
Yeah,
so that's
right.
Pretty big deal.
Yeah. I mean, healthcare is, I might get hate for this, but I think healthcare is much more accessible there than it is here. Healthcare costs are lower there. Everything is. But at the same time, how can we get that number to go up more? And
prevention.
And I think, yeah. Well, in order for the whole community, for the entire country to move forward, you have to help. You have to support the people on the lowest end, right? If we're simply talking numbers, if we're simply talking averages. Mm-hmm. To get the average up, you got to go look at the group of people who are at the lowest.
The bottom of the bell curve, yeah.
In the U.S., it's Black men.
Right, okay.
We have significant racial disparities in terms of health span, lifespan, accessibility, and without addressing the systemic racism that is within this country, we're also not going to get that average up. High 60s is the average life expectancy for them. It's not acceptable. We have to do a better job at supporting all of our people. That's what health equity is. Health equity is going to each group or each person and giving them the support that they individually need to get to where they should be able to be. And my gosh, living into your 70s should not be some kind of an achievement. You know what I mean? Like, that's not even acceptable as a bare minimum. So we need to do a better job of shifting from this sick care to this health care. And like you said, teaching our youth about what it is to be healthy. But in order to teach our youth, we have to teach our adults. Our adults don't even know how to take care of themselves in the right way. And it's not a personal issue. It's really a community problem that we need to provide this education. It needs to be more available.
Do you think that it's a blind spot in that people don't know what's possible? Or do you think it's somehow or rather small p political, in the sense that there isn't space in the school syllabus to teach medicine and medicine, but you know what I mean, like health, how to stay healthy, how to be
like a priority.
Yeah. So like, well, we haven't got space because you have to learn these other things, and where are you going to get the time? Like, is it that kind of thing, or is it like people literally have no idea that they could live a whole life of being healthy?
I think because we don't prioritize it, people don't know that it's possible. So I think it's both. But if we prioritized it and we simply talked about it, then people would know it's possible, right? So I think they go hand in hand, but I think it's both, because you have a lot of people who aren't realizing that it's not a part of aging to get heart disease. It's not a part of aging to feel awful. It's not a part of aging to live with 3 different comorbidities. That's not a part of aging.
Yeah, but you ask anybody and they'll say that is.
Right.
Like, if for real, like, you know, I talk about, oh, you know, who wants to have a longer life? And most people go, nah, don't want a longer life. And I'm like, what? Hang on, why? Like, what's so horrible about your life that you don't want to? Oh, no, my life's fine. I just don't want to be all sick and broken at the end. I'm like, that wasn't the question I asked you, right? The question I asked you was, did you want to live a longer life? But there's this automatic locking together those two things. It's like, hang on a minute, let's separate that.
Yeah, they're synonymous in most people's minds. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But imagine if we did prioritize it. Imagine if we told people starting at a young age, hey, you can live a long, healthy life into your 90s and beyond. That's absolutely possible. Here's all these incredible tools. Not only are we going to teach you about it, but we're going to help you implement it.
And you don't have to choose the life of being a pro athlete to have it. Right? Because that's the difference, right? You see that, but the people who have that, you know, they've got personal trainers and physiotherapists and meal planners and the whole thing to help them do it, right? Because they don't have another job to go to. They can spend their whole life on staying in peak condition. But you don't have to do that. You can be a quote unquote regular person doing your normal life with whatever that looks like, and experience that same degree of, well, not quite the same degree, but like, you know, pretty impressive levels of health and vitality.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if all of that was the setup, which realistically wouldn't even be that big of a, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation of what would that look like. But if that did happen, not only would our life expectancy go up, and not just in the US, but in whatever kind of country this was really prioritized in, but you would also see that increase in health span. You would see then an increase in all the economic benefits that would make it worth, you know, that the implementation of it from a more logistical standpoint. So it's really a win-win all the way around. And so when I see numbers like living into your 60s or 70s or low 80s as your average lifespan and groups of people living less, it's just, in 2023, that is just not acceptable. We know so much better. We do. Unfortunately, we do currently live in this world. Hopefully we're making some changes in it, but not to leave folks with a kind of depressing last thought. But I guess the takeaway is, on an individual level, there is so much you can do. You don't have to be that average number. You really don't. And by investing your time in some education, which you're absolutely doing right now, it doesn't have to be a formal education. And by surrounding yourself with a community of folks who are going to support you, that's a formula for success. And then sharing it. Oh my gosh, share it with other people. If we want to make any kind of a difference, it has to be more than just an individual person by person. Like, we need to be sharing this message. So share this video, share this live. It'll be posted in our Facebook group. It'll be posted on YouTube. Share with someone that you love who deserves to also live a long, healthy life. I think we all do. Because we need to make this common knowledge, and it's just not.
Yeah, that's one of my wishes, is definitely that this would become, the fact that you can choose the life that you want to have, the amount of control that you have, the amount of freedom that you have, the amount of information that's at your fingertips is unprecedented in history. Like, honestly, and there's no reason why anybody should be living a compromised life. The secret, right? It's not a secret, but the roadmap, the blueprint, the treasure map, whatever you want to call it, to an abundant life of health and joy is available. It is. And the hard bit is letting that reality sink into someone who's lived under the lie for so long, but then cutting through the noise. And then thirdly, doing it with someone, because it's just like, for anyone who's, for the vast majority, there's like 5% of people who go to the gym and they love it by themselves and they'll do it every day without any kind of motivation. They'll just go, they love it, right? But the rest of us, the 95%, we will go when we've got a buddy to go with, right? And sub out the gym for whatever it is, walking around the park with you, right? Walking, whatever it is, that's the thing that you choose to do to start to up level. When you do it with someone, your levels of success are astronomically higher than going solo. So whether it's you pledge that you're going to eat a banana a week that you've never had before, right? Or you're going to walk up the stairs instead of take the lift, or whatever, like have an accountability buddy to just say, I just walked up the stairs, I did 3 flights, and let them clap you on the back and be proud of it and claim it and be, because that kind of thing, because the whole big picture looks really daunting. Oh my gosh, all these things that I have to try and fight and all these things I have to learn, all these things I have to change. That's tough when you're on your own about it. So the reality, the truth bomb, right, of you get to pick something else is the big starting point. But that just sets you free from blindness, right? Then you've got to, then you've got to get your buddy, someone involved with you. That's my secret to success anyway.
I love it. Well, share this video with a buddy who can give you that pat on the back, who can support you along the way, because we all need more support in this journey. It's just a part of being human. So share it. We will be back tomorrow, YouTube live and Facebook in our Facebook group, with another coffee chat, another topic. So we will see you tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Bye.